Ве молам сите преку страна на барикадата, на оваа страна, додека не се префрлите, не почнуваме со никакви церемонии. Ајде, овде па има многу место. Идајте позади на камионот. Префрлете се на другава страна од барикадата, ве молам.
Ве моля, драги браќа и сестри, ако не се вратите назад и на лево на десна страна, не ни дозволува да пекнем.
Ќе ве молам, оставете ни да почнеме со церемонијата. Оставете, дозволете да почнеме. Дозволите да почнеме со церемонијата. If I can have your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests and supporters. Thank you for attending this peaceful protest, and I emphasize the word peaceful, organised by the Macedonian community from all over Australia. And aimed at showing our disgust and displeasure towards the Australian government's recent decision to refer to us as Slav Macedonians. It is important to note, ladies and gentlemen, that in this year, when nations such as South Africa and indeed the Palestinian people have gained equality and democracy, in the case of South Africa, and limited autonomy by the Palestinian people, the Macedonian nation has been returned to the dark ages of dictatorship and denials of basic human rights. The difference between South Africa, Palestine and Macedonia is in the fact that what is done to the Macedonian nation is in fact done here in Australia, in our so-called democratic and multicultural homeland. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very sorry state of affairs when the Australian government, through its Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Evans, decided to embark on an unprecedented path and rename the Macedonian community as Slav Macedonians. I must stress, ladies and gentlemen, that this decision was made without any prior consultation with the Macedonian community, but under strict requests by the Greek government through their loyal servants, the Minister for Immigration and Ethnic Affairs, Mr. Balkas. The decision is unprecedented because it is the only country, the only government that has decided to take this divisive, unjust and inhumane approach. We ask ourselves why. The answer is because the Macedonian community has been loyal, has been fair, not shouting and screaming as loud as the Greeks, has not burnt churches and has basically left the matter in the hands of the democratic processes of Australia. At least we thought democratic. And what did we get for being patient and law-abiding? We received a recognition package which can only be described as a Clayton's recognition. A recognition when you don't have a recognition. The Prime Minister, Mr. Keating, said at our meeting with him, you ought to be pleased about our efforts to recognise the FIREM, as he called it, and you should be very happy. I asked the Prime Minister, what is there to be happy about? You give with one hand and you take with the other. The only group that can show any happiness and pleasure as a result of this decision is the Greek community and the Greek government. They got exactly what they requested. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, is that a decision which shows that the government of Australia is for all Australians, or is it one that is divisive and biased? There are no illusions. This government has done its homework and ran with the Greek lobby. It has decided to cause the biggest division within our multicultural society and has denied the Macedonians the basic human right, the right to call itself as it feels. It is ironic that this year, the year when the Australian government attacks human rights violations in China, for instance, they themselves commit the biggest human rights violations to its own citizens. An act that will haunt this government for the rest of its term and out of office at the next elections. The Macedonian community has been known as Macedonian since the very first arrival of the very first Macedonian immigrant on the shores of Australia, which, by the way, was in 1893. The Macedonian community had formed and indeed registered churches, social and sporting clubs, dance groups and many other organisations, and have always been known as Macedonian. No previous government has ever questioned our nationality and or our ethnic background. No other government except this current Labor government. The Prime Minister, Mr. Keating, when claiming victory...
Napred!
And